Mogul Motivation, empowering and inspiring entrepreneurs and dream chasers worldwide, 1 week at a time. Presented by True Stories Media. And I'm your host, Antoine Twiz Taylor. What you're about to hear is the first episode in a new Mogul Motivation sub-series titled Aspire Higher. In this series, I interview a variety of entrepreneurs, medical professionals, lawyers, people in various industries who have done amazing things. But it's not just about the amazing things they do. It's about the motivation on how they got there, why they chose this route. In this first episode, I talk with Ron Lofton. Ron owned numerous McDonald's franchises on the west side of Chicago for nearly 30 years. He's going to tell us how he got started in entrepreneurship, why he chose McDonald's, and what was his driving force to keep going. Enjoy. Ron, how did you get introduced to entrepreneurship? How was the bug planted in your spirit?
Well, I was in corporate America for some 18 years and made my company a lot of money.
Yeah.
And never felt that I was compensated for my efforts in the manner in which I thought I should have been, nor was I promoted to the level that I thought I should have been, because there seemed to have been a glass ceiling for African Americans at that time in corporate America. So I figured if I could do this for them, I could do it for me. I had a couple of friends, three in which one owned a beauty shop, another owned a bar, and another owned an insurance agency. And they all seemed to be happy in their endeavors. And I figured if they could do something like that, so could I. Mm-hmm. And I wanted to leave a legacy of being able to not only uplift my family and myself, but to help my community. So that kind of gave me the bug to get in there and roll the sleeves up and try to become an entrepreneur and give back to the community.
And were you in Chicago at this time?
I was, yes. I was in Chicago. My friends were one in Pennsylvania, one in Minnesota, and one in New York. And they all looked up to me for some reason, because I guess I was a corporate executive. But at the same time, I was looking up at them like, wow, what guts. It takes a lot of guts to stand out there and step out on your own and put your investments, your life savings into a business and watch the fruit of your labors flourish.
Yeah. So after you got that bug, what was the first step? Like, how did you know what direction to go into as far as entrepreneurship?
Well, I really didn't, but I wanted to find something relatively safe for my investments. I had some stock options and some things of that nature that I had amassed some pretty decent dollars. And I started researching and looked at franchises. And I went to a franchise show at the O'Hare Hyatt and researched a bunch of different franchises. A lot of them were kind of middle of the road type of things, but one guy said, "Hey, man, if you really want to look at a franchise that partners with you and you want to be able to get the proper training and things of that nature, you might want to look at McDonald's or fast food in general." And that's what started me on the road toward McDonald's.
And what year was this, real quick? What year was this?
This was 1992.
1992, okay.
Yeah. And at that time, I had just gotten a promotion, and I was promoted to a division manager for a new startup venture in my company that I was working for. The only problem was I was given the lion's share of the territories, and I would leave home on Sunday evening and not get back home till Friday evening.
Wow.
And my territory was Chicago to Hawaii. Hawaii wasn't bad in February, though. I gotta be honest.
I bet. You sound good right now.
Yeah, I had some 200 some guys working under me. but the problem was that two-thirds of the startup budget was put in my lap, and I wasn't compensated for that, and I just really felt that I was being misused. I'm not going to say ill-used, but misused to do a lot of things that people that were vice presidents, instead of a vice president, I was a director.
Mm.
So stock options between those two are very, very big. Trust me.
Yeah, I bet.
So
I bet. Yeah. So you were at this conference for franchising,
correct.
and someone suggested McDonald's, and
Right.
you was like, okay, McDonald's it is.
Well, no, it wasn't that easy. I went to a McDonald's seminar in Lake Tahoe,
Okay.
and everybody I talked to, particularly African American franchisees, and there wasn't that many at that time, and there still isn't. There's less than 260 African American franchisees. That there's something like 37,000 franchises worldwide.
That's a huge gap.
So that's a huge gap. And but everyone that talks says, man, we're like a family. Everybody helps one another. If you need anything, here's my number. Give me a call. And some of these guys were, pretty wealthy millionaires. And I'm like, wow, gave me his personal number. And
Mm-hmm.
wow, I'd like to be part of something like this.
Right. Yeah, that's good.
And
That's networking at its finest.
absolutely. And so they impressed me in that aspect, but they also impressed me in that they were giving back so much, and they were so grounded in the Lord, and they wouldn't start a meeting without a prayer, and I'm like, wow, man, these people are for real.
Yeah.
So I told my wife, I says, this is something I think we can do. Um, but of course I had the rose colored glasses on. I'm thinking, wow, I live in Naperville. I'll get a franchise in Naperville and I'll be out there with my folks. Didn't work that way.
Mm.
My training was in Gary, Indiana. My first franchise offer was on the west side of Chicago, which I grew to come to love and cherish as probably a blessing in disguise. It allowed me to reconnect with my people because I was so delved in corporate America that, you don't see that many African Americans as you go to these lavish dinners and conferences and things of that nature. There's a select few.
Yeah.
But the bulk of my folks were on the west side struggling. And what could do to help bring something back to the table for people who stood up for me, who marched for me, who gave me an opportunity to go to college and that type of thing. So that was a big driver for me to be able to get back in the community.
So it was like a blessing in disguise there that your offer was on the west side of Chicago.
Absolutely.
So how does that work? I'm sure it's different for different corporations, right? But you said the offer was on the west side. So basically you have your money to purchase a franchise, right? And they say
Correct.
these are the areas where you can purchase a franchise. So you have to pick within that area. That's how that works?
Kind of, sort of. First, they'll start out letting you know that there's no guarantee that you'll be here in Chicago. Are you willing to move? And of course, I'm willing to move, and for the right opportunity. Secondly, they were not giving prime selections to African Americans. Trust me. But in the same token, I was that brother on the stage talking about we need to do this for one another. We need to help one another. They skim the cream off the top and they leave us whatever is left, and whatever is left is in the hood. And we're not generating wealth in the hood, and we're not giving jobs, and we're not training our young folks to want more, to be more. And so I looked at myself and said, well, what are you doing, Ron? You live in Naperville. You drive a fine car, live in a fine house. and you eat at the finest restaurants and all of that. But have you really gotten your hands dirty, brother, since you got out of college? And so my thing was, uh, let me get back in here and see what I can do. And so I wasn't mad about the franchise offer, although some of my African American franchisee brothers were, hey, this is all they offer us. But if not me, who? My people need me just as bad as Naperville needs me.
Yeah.
Why would I go out and give the best to Naperville when I can give the best to the West Side?
Yeah.
So that's what drove me, man, and it really did. It sounds corny, but it's true.
And it's real. It's real
Yeah,
because it's
yeah,
I'm not a millionaire yet, but I have heard stories and I've witnessed personally firsthand how a lot of us, Black Americans, African Americans, however you want to say it, we get to the level where we aspire to be, but then once we get there, it's kind of like, we just don't look back. And I'm not
right.
necessarily saying you gotta, be giving out turkeys out the back of a truck to everybody or, giving money to everybody, but your
I
presence
did
is
that.
needed. Right. And that's good. And that's good too. But I
Yeah,
think at the end of the day, the presence is what's needed more than anything, just your presence, just to be there, to be available and accessible. I think that's what's necessary. And a lot of us don't do that. A lot of us do. So I don't want to
yeah.
discredit the fact that a lot of us do it, but it's still a lot of us that don't, which is unfortunate.
And you're absolutely right. I will tell you, a number of people that I have fired have come back to me years later and say, "Man, I want to thank you." I said, "Why you want to thank me?" Because what you were trying to impart to me, what you were trying to educate me on about life, about work ethic, about diligence is true. And I wouldn't be where I am today without those things that you taught me. And firing me was the best thing that ever could have happened to me.
Wow.
And I'm like, wow, yeah,
That's
that's
great
heavy.
humility. That's great
Yeah,
humility and growth,
yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So what year was it when you got your first franchise on the West Side? So was it 92, 93?
I tell you, I worked uh, when I would come back from my trips, my business trips. I would don my McDonald's uniform and I go work at the restaurants, and I would put in nothing less than 20 to 25 hours between Friday and Sunday evening.
Mm.
And I did that for 1 year. And on Martin Luther King's birthday, January 15th, 1993, I got my first franchise.
Wow.
So it was like an omen. It was like everything fell into place.
Mm.
Didn't come without hard work. I will tell you that.
Of course.
And I worked feverishly night and day. I worked um, almost 15 hours a day, 7 days a week for 3.5 years uh, because failure was no option. It couldn't be an option for me.
And why was it
So
not an
at that,
option?
because I had placed everything I owned into this situation.
Yeah.
I had maybe 70% of my wife's backing, but it wasn't all the way.
Yeah.
Wives are very protective of what you have gained, and they're not about to try and lose it
Yeah.
on a whim. But my wife believed in me, and she knew that I had the work ethic, and that I didn't mind working, and I didn't mind being side by side with my people. So it all worked out in the end.
Yeah. That's that's amazing. The fact that you had that determination, that grit. Did you have to, by any chance, go to what was it, the Hamburger University, Hamburger U? Did you have to go through that
Uh,
route?
Absolutely.
Yeah, yeah, you had to go.
Absolutely. There was 4 phases that you went through to become an entrepreneur in the McDonald's system. And you went through basic operation training, and you went through the advanced operating training, and you went to Hamburger University. Matter of fact, Don Thompson, former CEO of McDonald's, and I were in the same class.
Wow, look at that.
And he had an engineering degree from Purdue, and I had a degree in sociology and anthropology from Clarion University. So we were two ends of the spectrum, but it all came together at a McDonald's class.
Mm. And he was the only Black American CEO McDonald's has had to date, correct?
Correct.
Wow.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Fantastic, brother. Fantastic, brother.
So you get your first franchise after Martin Luther King's birthday, 93. When did you move to the second one?
It was 95. I moved
95.
to the second one, yeah, over on Grand Avenue, Grand and Central Park.
Okay.
And then after that, I went to O'Hare Airport and picked up Terminal 2 and Terminal 3.
So you had two at O'Hare Airport. Wow.
Yes.
Wow.
And I was out there for 7 years on a 10-year contract, and did very well out there. Wasn't my cup of tea though.
You didn't like the airport?
I didn't like the politics of the airport. See, I'm not a political person. I'm a worker.
Okay.
You may be smarter than me, but you won't outwork me. And my people were not used to being in such a diverse cultural environment, and it was training as you go. Most of the people we hired were from the West Side. I'm the guy that devised van pools to go to the airport. I'm the guy that devised getting food and drink to the grounds crews when it was snow-bound delays. I'm the guy that would go and pick up people on the West Side and bring them out there and devise premium pay for people that would go out there and work. But
So you
all I
was
ever
doing
got
everything.
from the airport, well, all I ever got from the airport commission was grief. Luckily, Mayor Daley, um, Michael Scott, rest in peace, were people that believed in me as well, and they would back those folks off at the airport because here I come, Servalmation and host Marriott and those folks that have been out there for years, and here comes this African American out here, and he's got a big McDonald's franchise. Why not us? So at the end of the day, I was out there 7 years on a 10-year contract, made a lot of money, and I felt that my place, my given call was the West Side of Chicago. That's where I felt more comfortable as well.
Mm-hmm.
So I went back to the West Side. I still own the franchises on the West Side, and my growth then became not in the suburbs, but on the West Side.
And when we talking about growth, how many franchises are we talking at this point? And we're going to talk about your internal growth as well within the corporation. But how many franchises?
Right. Well, I picked up Oak Park at Austin and Madison, and I picked up Laverne and Madison. I picked up Chicago and Laramie. I picked up Western and Madison, and then I still have my original location of Roosevelt and Kedzie, and Karloff in Madison.
So that's what, 6? There was 7.
7, and 7. I pared down to 5 because we closed the one on Karloff after much chagrin. We closed that one, and then we sold the one in Oak Park, and became very successful at where we were. The average restaurant at McDonald's at that time was doing about $2 million in gross sales. All of my restaurants did over 3.
Wow.
And service to me is a must. And treating people with respect was a must. My whole thing was, I will not ask you to do anything that I won't do. If I ask you to mop the floor, I'll mop the floor. If I ask you to clean the bathroom, I'll clean the bathroom. If I ask you to flip burgers, I'll flip burgers. So a lot of times people will come in and say, Ron, what are you doing in the grill? And I'm working back here with my folks. This is my business. And I want to make sure that your sandwich is right.
Mm.
So,
What would you say would be the hardest part of your entrepreneurial journey? Was it securing the financing? Was it the operations? What was the most challenging part that you had to overcome?
in my estimation, it was the operations,
Okay.
trying to get my folks to understand what appears to be clean to you is not clean to Oak Brook McDonald's. It's a difference. And I know you might not understand it, but this is the greens fees, and this is what we have to do to stay in business. So the grading process was very difficult, and it always will be for the African American franchisees until we can get a level playing field of a mixture of stores in which we can bring people in that understand the format for what they call quality, service, and cleanliness. There's three things that McDonald's operates on, and so it was important for me. And it's like I was always in a teaching mode, always in a teaching mode.
Yeah.
Um, it became frustrating at times, but I couldn't give up on my folks.
Yeah. That's great. That you didn't lose patience because sometimes people need a little bit more time to get there, right? We
Yeah,
we always
yeah,
expect others to get it how we get it. A friend of mine said that he could never be a coach. He was a very great track and field athlete, but he said he could never be a coach. And I asked him why. He was honest. He said because I can't teach them how to do it, and that
mm,
makes a lot of sense because
it does.
you have to have patience to teach people how to do things, how to have skill, and how to be great. And if you don't have that patience, you're going to fail. And he knew he didn't have that patience. That's why he never even went into that arena. So the fact that you never lost patience with your employees and with your staff and with just people in general is it's amazing. It's a beautiful thing because we need that. Sometimes we need that guiding light to get there.
Well, I ain't gonna tell you that I started out that way. I
Oh, I
was
bet.
much
I
like your
bet.
much like your friends. Like, what's wrong with these folks? You know,
Hmm.
what are they getting taught at home? I fired a guy. He was a manager for me, and I thought about it. And I said, "Oh man, he has my keys to my store." So I go into my computer. I says, "Okay, he lives on so and so and so and so." I drive over there. I knock on the door, and I says, "Hey, bro, I need my keys, man." He said, Mr. Lofton, I'm sorry. You know, I've learned my lesson. And I said, well, I want you to ponder this for a while and then we'll talk. And he says, well, come in and I'll get your keys. And when I went in, it hit me like a ton of bricks. I was like, oh my God, he's living like this?
Wow.
Oh my God. No wonder they don't understand quality, service, and cleanliness.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I hired him back.
Because you felt the need to you had
Oh
to
man.
you had to show him the way and that
Yeah.
this is not how to
Yeah.
live.
Yeah. Yeah.
You had to serve him.
Yeah.
So even though you
Yeah.
was his boss, even though you was the one signing his checks, you still felt the need to serve him. And that's what I'm getting from you right now, Ron. It's like you always felt that urge to serve.
Yeah.
You always wanted to serve. That's why you, even though you didn't pick the West Side, that's why you felt at home on the West Side because you love to
Right.
serve.
It just became secondary,
Yeah.
like second nature.
Yeah. Yeah. So let's talk about your growth on the inside of the corporation. So how did you get involved in the Black McDonald's owners? Am I saying it right? What's the acronym for it?
Black McDonald's Owners Association.
Yes, yes. How did you get involved in that, and how did you basically eventually become the president of the chapter, or was it the nation?
I became the president of the chapter and I became the vice president of the nation
Okay.
and board of directors for the nation. And I was the president for the board of directors for all the McDonald's operators, black and white, here in Chicago for almost 6 years, and on the board of directors for 16 years.
Wow, those are huge feats. Those are huge feats. How did you get there? Like, how did it even start?
Well, as you could probably tell from our conversation, I'm a kind of a workaholic,
Yeah.
and so the Black McDonald's operators, in my estimation, needed leadership that was not self-serving. That was, if I'm elected by the people, I will serve the people and I will do the will of the people. And when I was elected, I think my folks understood that I did not take not one franchise while I was president of the chapters, nor the board. So they knew I was not in it for self-serving reasons.
Okay.
And I had their best interests at heart. So we would go in and negotiate better deals for people. We would negotiate exit strategies for people, help for people when they needed it, and work diligently to forge a relationship between franchisee and corporation that was not adversarial, that one hand washed the other. And so I think it was recognized both on both sides of the ledger, both from my white and Hispanic counterparts as well as my African American counterparts. And I felt everybody say, well, you're a natural born leader. Well, leaders are groomed and leaders are forged through learning and listening and observing other leaders. And I felt like, I was trying to be a melting pot of all the great leaders that I have felt throughout my lifetime, that have shown us the way and has not placed their personal needs ahead of the folks, the people.
All the success you've had, even before you became an entrepreneur, because you said you was very successful in corporate America, even though you wasn't compensated properly for it. What would you say was the central motivation for you for all the success in your life? You said that in when you started the franchise and this, failure wasn't an option. You didn't want to let your wife down, things like that. We talked about your conviction to serve. But what would you boil everything down to if you had to pick one central theme for your motivation?
I guess it would be my grandparents. They were dirt farmers from Mississippi. My mom died when I was 2 months old. They had 17 kids, and they felt the need to take me in and raise me, and taught me a work ethic that was unsurpassed by any college or education that I could have gotten anywhere else. My grandfather couldn't read nor write. Couldn't sign his name until he was almost 70 years old. To my aunt taught him how to write his name so he can get his Social Security check cashed. And so I'm looking at this guy, and this guy we had family in Pennsylvania. He would drive from Mississippi to Pennsylvania and never get lost. And I'm like, how can he do that? And he can't read or write.
Wow.
He doesn't know I-70 from I-59.
Yeah.
But he did. And I'm like, if he can do that, if he can raise 17 kids and never a day on welfare, if he can run his own farm and get his crops to a point where he can make money to support his family, the least I could do is to make him proud of me.
The least.
So the least I can do. So I was the first one to go to college. I was the first one to own my own business. I was the first one to do this and to do that. But I never forgot where I came from and how I got there and who got me there. Man, I would tell you, and I tell people this all the time. We're a little clapboard church we used to go to. And the old folks there used to put a quarter in my pocket, 50 cents in my pocket. Don't you give up, boy. You gonna be the one. Don't you give up. And I couldn't let them down. I just couldn't.
You were your ancestors' wildest dreams, as a famous phrase that floats around social media these days says. You did great. You continue to do great. You're an inspiration to the West Side. I'm sure your impact is still felt there. I'm sure the amounts of people you've touched and served continue to resonate and inspire. And yeah, that's really all I can say.
Yeah.
That's really all I can say.
Well, I don't want you to leave in here thinking that I'm a perfect human being. I have faults just like every other human being.
Absolutely.
And that I have done some things that I'm probably not proud of in my life. But I have a saying that if I can't help you, I sure as hell ain't gonna hurt you. And that's my motto, man. I'm not out here to hurt anybody. If I can help you, let me know. I'll do my best. I appreciate the conversation. And as you know, friendship is essential to the soul.
Yes, it is. Hopefully Ron Lofton's story inspires you to continue to aspire higher and stay on your journey to success. If this episode has benefited you in any way, shape, or form, I ask for two things as always. Number one, leave a 5-star review. And number two, pass it on to a friend who may benefit from it as well. A new Mogul Motivation episode will be out this Wednesday. Have a great day, everyone. I'll talk to you soon.